Right. Good evening, everyone. So I hope you guys are able to see my screen. So welcome all of you to the Firewall Mastery 5-in-1 Networks Journeys, one of the elite course. Now, the reason of getting into this particular course is because you're not just learning one firewall, you're going to learn 5 of them, which is on the top of the market today. So once you go through them, in a way, you are having the knowledge to work on all these firewalls. So in a way, you are also saying that whatever the demand that you have right now on the market, you would be able to fulfill that, right? So there's nothing which would be able, which will stop you saying if there is a call coming up and yes, you cannot say no. You will be having the knowledge on that particular firewall. Hello, ASA, Checkpoint, Fortigate, F5. These are the top requirements right now in the market. So we'll go ahead and learn all this in the Firewall Mastery 5-in-1. Okay, so this is the latest course. Okay, and we are going to cover all these topics or all these devices, and you can always go ahead and book the 2 free trial sessions with us. These are the benefits, as in, these are the weekend course designed for working professionals. We all are working, right? So we only get the 2 days to upgrade ourselves. Second is 5 firewall module covered under single bundle pack. Yes, so in one course, you are getting all the 5 firewalls. Next is it's a 5-month lab rack server access provided. You will be having the access to, for our own labs, and you will be able to do all your lab practice over there. And if in case somebody needs access to their own personal lab, they want to create their own lab in their own system, we would help you with that as well. Multiple retakes on the complete life patch, yes, possible. 24/7 lab support, yes, we will be providing with all kinds of support that you want, technical or management, no problem at all. Lifetime access to the recordings and the study materials and the PDF. So it's not that just for these couple of months we'll be there with you. No, it's like if you want any kind of information, the resources, you will be having that information with you. All right. Now, this is more or less like a quick introduction to what the 5-in-1 Firewall Mastery is all about. Okay, so this is the syllabus that we are going to cover up with the Palo Alto. Now today, just for the demo, what we are doing is we are going with FortiGate firewall, which is as of now in very huge demand. So if anybody wants to find out what is the course and all the details, they can basically come into this particular URL. You can find all this information in your chat box. You will slowly and gradually get this information from our team. So networkjourney.com firewall mastery. Okay, so that's the page. Over here you will get details about what all firewalls is covered. One. Second is what are the syllabus inside each individual firewalls that you have. So Cisco ASA FTT firewall syllabus. You can find the Checkpoint firewall syllabus over here, and then you have the FortiGate firewall syllabus we have, and then you have the FLT. Now for today, what we are doing is we are just taking up the FortiGate firewall. Okay, so this is the syllabus that's going to be covered up in this case. Okay, today what we are doing is we are trying to take you into a journey of introduction to Fortinet as a company. Okay, and its product, which is a FortiGate firewall, what it is, how does it work, and all that stuff. Okay, so this you can think of this like an introductory class of what exactly the FortiGate firewall is all about. Okay, and if in case anybody wants to understand more about this, you have the URL in the chat box. You can click on this and you get the access to the same page. Okay, all right. Now let me go ahead and share. Hold on. Yeah. Okay. All right, so getting to know the market leader. Okay, so why am I saying getting to know market leader? There has to be some reasons or some facts or figures before I go ahead and make that statement, right? So see, absolutely, we do have certain, measurements of identifying why would you call somebody as a market leader, right? So I'm going to tell you how exactly that is and why that is, and you can also, research on your own, and I'll help you with that as well. Okay, so we'll go ahead and proceed with the market leader. And when I say market leader, why do I say that? Right. See, there are a couple of things that you can look for, and first thing is the Gartner report. Okay, so when we say Gartner report, what does it mean? Okay, Gartner report, to give you in a nutshell, the Gartner report is basically an organization or it's an entity which basically goes ahead and ranks or measures all kind of network devices, network security devices, cyber security devices, wireless, you name them, and they have the rankings on it. So Gartner is an organization which basically ranks all the devices. So what happens is, and when I say rank the devices, what I mean is that on the basis of their performance, there are a couple of factors which is included. I mean, there are certain factors on the basis of which they provide a certain rank to one of the devices or any of the devices which is available on the internet or on the market, which are being considered as a network security device, okay, or network firewalls for that matter. So the one is the performance, how good or bad the performance is for that particular device. Second is the ratings, as in the user ratings. Okay, what is the user's rating on that particular device? The third is the experience, as in what is the experience of working on that device. Okay, there's one more which is performance, but then as in the hardware performance, and then the other one is the software performance. Okay, so these things are basically considered before you go ahead and rank anybody or any network firewall out there. Okay, how is the hardware, how is the software, how is the performance, how is the stability of it, what is the rating from the user's perspective, what is the experience, and how deployment, how easy it is. Okay, so if I'm going to deploy a firewall, how easy it is for the user. Okay, so these things basically goes and considers as a feature, or you can consider this as a measurement which a Gartner organization takes into account before it ranks any of the firewall out there. Okay, now before we have to understand, before I move further, we have to understand that whenever we are talking about firewalls, and I said it's a market leader, you should know how to read a Gartner report. So this what you see over here, this is a magic quadrant. When I say magic quadrant, what I mean is that this quadrant basically lists out all the devices, and every quadrant has a different nature or a different behavior of that particular quadrant. So let's understand what exactly this means and how do you read this. Okay, so no, let me hold on. So yeah, the first thing is whenever you're looking for the network firewall section, okay, the first thing is the ability to execute. Ability to execute means how easy and how quickly they're able to execute anything which is required in the market. Whatever is which is required in the market, how easily they are able to execute that, whatever feature, whatever functionality which is required right now. How would you go ahead and execute that and make it available to all your users or all the organizations which is using your product? Next is the completeness of vision. So when I say completeness of vision, what it means is that how how exactly the company is looking at itself in the next 10 years, in the next 20 years, and even more. Okay, so how does the firewall, or how does that particular company is looking out for the security for the next 10 years or 20 years? What are they doing right now which will secure and enhance the security of the users in the next 10 years or 20 years? What are all the features and the functionalities that they're trying to imbibe in the next 10 or 20 years, right? So This is the two criteria on the basis of which you will be able to figure out what is the best firewall to work with. Okay. Now let me zoom this up and let's talk about the quadrants one by one. Okay. Now see, the first one is the ability to execute and the completeness of vision. The first quadrant, okay, well, I'll just probably say this as Q1, okay, quadrant one, okay. So you see, there's a lot of devices. I mean, this is called as niche players, okay. So why would you call any device or any vendor out there which is called as a niche player? Niche player is basically what I mean is that these are the devices or these are the vendors who are basically giving the same feature set, same functionality set, and you can find that feature set or functionality set on any other device which is out there in the market. Okay, so there's nothing which is setting them apart from the other devices. So that's why they are basically the niche players. It's as in everybody is doing it, so we are also doing it. Okay. So you can see, the Sonic wall is over here, Barracuda is over here, WatchGuard, okay, H3C, Microsoft. These guys are basically into the niche players. All right. The next one is the one which is called as the visionaries. Now, what is visionaries? Let's talk about that. Okay. See, on the visionary section, you have two people over here, which is Sophos and ForcePoint. Okay. Now, one thing I actually forgot to tell you, when we say somebody is a niche player, right? When I say somebody is a niche player, what does it basically mean is that their ability to execute and their completeness of vision is about the current issues of the market. Whatever the current issues of the market is, they're just trying to fulfill that. Current issues. Okay, so whatever the market is looking for right now, they are just trying to make sure that they get this feature. So it's not that they are best in that feature. No, what it means is that whatever is required there right now, they are going to provide that feature. That's it. How good that works, what is the performance, those are debatable, but they are going to provide those information or those feature set. Okay, so that's what the niche player basically means. Okay, now let's talk about the visionary section. So see over here, what happens is that when you are talking about the visionary section, their vision, and the ability to execute. Okay, so the vision is long. Okay, the vision is long. Maybe they're targeting the 20 years to 30 years. Okay, they're looking into the future technologies and how to make sure that their device is very much capable to handle the technologies of the future as well. Okay, so forth and the fourth point is more in that their ability to execute is still a question, as in whatever is required right now, they may or may not be able to fulfill those needs. But their vision for the next 20 or 30 years is very impeccable. They're talking about the visions of the next 10 years, how Sophos would be and all that stuff. So still they're not able to cope up with what exactly is required right now, but they are still doing enough to maintain in the market, but their goal is a long-term goal. So that's what the visionaries is all about. And that's what makes that's Q2 as the quadrant 2. Now let's try to understand the challengers, okay, the Q3. So when we say Q3, challengers, what this basically means is that their ability to execute is impeccable. Maybe their vision is maybe for the next 10 years or so. Okay, not for 20 or 30 years, not a long vision, but whatever is required right now, they're doing it perfectly. Okay, so whatever is required, whatever the features is required right now, they're doing it perfectly, no issues at all. And there are known names on the market. There are people who come. I mean, companies basically look up to these vendors for anything which is required right now. If there's any feature or any functionality to make the device better right now, they will do that. And that's why you have Cisco over here. Can you name, I mean, whenever we are talking about routers, whenever we are talking about switches, the first thing which comes to our mind is Cisco, right? And pretty much I'm sure that you guys would agree. A lot of you might have started their career with something which is called as CCNA. Yeah, a lot of you. Now, it's not always the case, but my point is that majority of the people starts off with something which is CCNA or maybe something which is ICND. I started with ICND. It was not CCNA in my case. I mean, it was there, but then it was like you need to go with the ICND part 1 and the part 2. Once you're done with that, you go for the CCNA. So I'm talking about 10, 11 years back. Okay, so that's why we have Cisco very much on the market. Everybody knows about it. Huawei is again one of the contenders, and Juniper again one of the. So these two people are basically rivals for each other because Cisco and Juniper are mostly into the routing and the switching, the RNS section, right? But whenever you're looking for a firewall, then probably you would not basically go directly to Cisco or Juniper. You can still go. I'm not saying that. The point is, those are not the pioneers over here. Okay. Next, Q4, quadrant 4 leader section. When you see this, you have Palo, which we are going to learn in the Firewall Mastery. You have Fortinet, which we are again going to learn in Firewall Mastery. We have Checkpoint, which we again are going to learn in the Firewall Mastery, and Cisco as well. We're going to learn in the Firewall Mastery. So you can see that we are basically covering up when it comes to the network firewalls, the top 4, right? Leaders and the challengers, right? So this is what makes a difference. Over here, the ability to execute and their vision, again, these two both are impeccable. What I mean is they're giving whatever is required right now, and they're giving it the best, top notch, best performance, best use case, best implementation, best installation, best deployment scenarios. So all of them, these vendors are able to do it exactly the way people are looking for. Okay, and their vision for the next 20, 30 years is also in the right way, in the right path, where they can see themselves in the next 20 years and 30 years, and they're doing exactly what is needed right now to achieve the next 20 years or so. Okay, so whatever they are doing right now is also helping them achieve the goals in the next 20 years, because we know that in the next 20 years, AI and ML is going to be very, very common. As of, see, 10 years back when I was studying, right, cloud was something which was, people were talking about it. It was not implemented anywhere else, but people were talking about it. You know what? There's a new technology coming in, and cloud is going to, take over and all that stuff. Now, cloud is a living reality for a lot of companies out there. A lot of companies have a mix of hardware setup and implementation and a mix of cloud setup. They're still migrating to the full cloud deployment. We are still not there, but in the next 5 to 8 years or so, we are going to have companies which is purely on cloud, nothing, no hardware steps apart from whatever is mandatory. Okay, so we are slowly and gradually going over there. In the next 10 to 15 years, in the next 15 years or so, AI and ML is going to do a lot of jobs. AI and ML will be integrated to all these devices. Okay, Fortinet and Palo Alto already has a couple of products which is working on the AI and ML technology. Okay, so I'm not sure of the Palo Alto, but in the Fortinet there's a device which is called as Fortigate. It's a very intuitive device which works on the AI and the ML, and it's going to tell you what exactly is wrong on your network. Okay, it's going to give you feedbacks and suggestions on what is wrong with your network and how would you go about fixing that as well. Okay, and you being the administrator would be able to do that job. Okay, so again, the vendors out there have started to work with the AI and ML and give you products and services which could help you become a better company, as a better security company, as a better cybersecurity company. And you as a firewall administrator would also be in a better position to handle that kind of devices. Okay. So again, as I said, leaders are the one which have the next vision of the 10 years and the ability to execute the features which is required right now. They are also doing that in the best possible way, without any challenges and issues, majority of it. Okay, so Palo, Fortinet, Checkpoint, Cisco, these are the ones which is considered over here. Okay, so when I say we are working with the market leader or Fortigate is a market leader, this is how we know about that. If anybody who wants to is basically interested to know more about the Gartner report, they can quickly do a search Gartner report or Network Firewalls Gartner report or Gartner report 2022. It's exactly the same. Okay, so you can go and search that and you would be able to find that information. It's quite detailed about every thing that you need to know about every network firewall out there. You would be able to know that from the Gartner report. So it's a hefty report. You can go and download that. There's no price to it. You just need to put in your email address and that's it. Okay. So that's what the Gartner report is, and that's what I mean when I say magic quadrant. Okay. So I think you guys now have a good amount of idea about what exactly the magic quadrant is and the network firewalls. Why is anybody called a leader and what's the reason behind it? And also, what are the devices which is inside the leader category? Okay. All right. So let's move on. Okay. Now, next question is fine. Okay, the firewall is coming into the leaders category. Fine. What else? Why do I need the FortiGate? Okay. See, over here, what happens is we need to understand that if anybody is choosing FortiGate firewall, then there are certain features, functionalities, and the benefits of it. So what are those, right? So easy to implement and understand. Yes, very true. So since you will be a part of the firewall mastery, you'll see this. Although all the other firewalls are also in the same category, but then the point is, when it comes to implementation, FortiGate is really easy to come to work with. Okay, so you would find similarity with the Palo Alto and the FortiGate. You will find that you will have a similarity, but Checkpoint is it's a different architecture. They have a different architecture, so that will be different. But at least you'll know how different firewalls behave and functions. You'll know how exactly the if you want to configure a feature, how would you go about in the Palo, how would you go about in the FortiGate, and how would you go about in the ASA or some of the firewall or Checkpoint for that matter. Okay, so it becomes easy for you, and if you're in an interview, it doesn't really matter what question comes up, you will be able to answer that. Next, stepping stone into the security domain. Yes, it's one of the articles which basically says that if in case you want to enter into the network firewall, if you want to enter into the network security domain, FortiGate is a much better option as compared to Palo or Checkpoint. Okay, I'm not saying that those are bad. What point is, as I said again, it's a little easy, just that. Okay, but once you get into this, once you understand the FortiGate firewall, it will become easy for you to go with the Palo Alto as well because it's very similar. For Checkpoint, the architecture is a little different, but then end of the day, it's again a firewall. You'll know how things work. Okay, so for you, it will be more like, okay, you just tell me how exactly to configure it. You already know what the feature is all about. So it's like, let's say for example, just giving an example that let's say you're working with URL filter. Now see, URL filter is the functionality where you can allow or deny some website. Okay. Now this feature is available on the FortiGate. It's available in the Palo Alto. Okay, it's available in the Checkpoint. Okay, and it's available over the other firewalls as well. Okay, my point over here is that once you understand what is the URL filter, okay, then you just need to understand how to implement this on the different firewalls. Okay, you do not have to go through the concept of the URL filter again and again and again because you already know that concept. You just need to learn once, and the rest will be like a cakewalk to all of you. Okay, next. Stepping stones, and then we have security concepts made simple. Absolutely. So all the security concepts which is required for you to understand from a network security domain, right? Those concepts becomes very easy to understand and implement on the firewall itself. Soho to enterprise. Again, this is something which is very similar to all the firewalls. SOHO basically means entry level firewalls. Firewalls that you can use for a couple of people, 5 users, 10 users, 15 users, and it goes to 5,000 users, 10,000 users, or even more than that. So that's why it's called a SOHO, as in small office, home office to enterprise. So entry level to enterprise, sorry, high end, let's say. Okay. So over here as well, the products that they have is starting from the entry level to the high end. I'm going to show you right now. Okay. So Gartner report, we already checked that information. Okay. Now let me show you what I'm talking about. Hold on. So a lot of times, whenever we are talking about Fortinet as a company, okay, people, some of my students come up, I mean, in the initial days, they comes up with a question as in, is it a Fortinet firewall, or is it a Fortigate firewall? So I will always tell, see, Fortinet is a company, okay, it's the vendor, and Fortigate is the product, okay, because Fortinet is not just one Fortigate firewall. There are so many devices which comes into it. There, which we can go into the websites and look into it. But Fortigate is basically one of the devices which is very familiar with all the other vendors out there. Okay, so let's have a quick look into what are we going to study and what is Fortinet. Okay, so that's the URL that you all can come into. That's botnet.com, and over here you can basically go in through the features. So over here, you look over here. Today's enterprise requires a new approach to cybersecurity, right? So this basically is a way of telling that what exactly the FortiGate firewall will be able to provide you. What you will get if in case you are working with a FortiGate firewall. Okay, so you can see over here you have the FortiGate threat intelligence. I'm just clicking on over here. These are the options, right? So the FortiGate threat intelligence, that's one. Now, what is FortiGate threat intelligence? Threat intelligence is basically a way of saying that to keep it very simple, to make it very simple for you to understand. Let's see. So see, if you want to upgrade your, let's say you have a Windows machine, okay? If you want to fetch updates, what would you do? You'll turn up Windows updates, right? What will happen? It is going to contact who? Microsoft server, right? Microsoft server, which is available on the internet, and whatever the patches that you need on the Windows will be downloaded automatically and it will be installed. So in a way, your Windows system, or Windows 10, for example, is having the right security updates, it's having the right Windows patches with you. So no security vulnerability can affect your system. That's the whole point of upgrading and updating your Windows machine, right? So how the Windows machine is able to do it? Because you have a Microsoft server, which is available on the internet, okay? And it is not catering to just you, it is catering to all the Windows machines out there, right? So whatever Windows machines is out there, and if it is licensed, if it has the right version, if it is Windows 10 and above, you will know that okay, those systems will be able to take updates, and Microsoft Server, which is available on the internet, it will be able to fetch you those information. Now, same thing, same analogy you can provide over here with the FortiGate as well, that they have something which is called as the FortiGate. Now, again, this is a server in itself. Now, what happens is across the globe, you will have millions and millions of FortiGate firewalls, right? Implemented at every location out there. So, FortiGate server is basically a device, a system which is available all across the globe, which has all the security updates, right? So, whatever updates that you can think of, those updates are available over here. For example, AV, IPS, application control, web filtering, DNS filtering, file filtering, um, certificate inspection. Okay, and yeah, so basically these are the security features and the security profiles, okay, which is available, and all the updates for antiviruses, IPS, application control, all of them you can find this on this particular server. And what happens is, whenever you have any Fortigate firewall, it's going to connect to this particular Fortigate server and just download every patch updates or service updates that it requires. Okay, so what will happen is that the FortiGate firewall will be updated with the right information, that right malicious websites which is out there, malicious codes, viruses, trojans, and whatever you can think of. All the security patches and updates will be available, and your FortiGate firewall will be able to take those information, take those updates from that server. That's why it is called as the Fortigate threat intelligence, because all the kinds of threats which is available out there or which is lurking out there, your Fortigate firewall would be able to take those information from the server itself and will be ready for any kind of attack which may come on the internet. So the firewall will be ready, and if in case something like that happens in your network, it will block that kind of traffic even before it may cause any damage or issues in your own network. Okay, so that's what it means when I say Fortigate threat intelligence. Okay. The next is zero trust access. Okay, so let me just read this out to you. Applications are hosted in the data centers and clouds as users are working in the office, at home, on the road. Fortinet's zero trust access pillar enables consistent, seamless enterprise class security across all applications, no matter where they are, for all users, no matter where they are. What this basically means. See, this basically means, let me give an example. I think most of you guys know about something which is called as Cisco AnyConnect. Okay, I'm just trying to make it simple enough for you, for everybody to understand this. Hope you guys have understood. Know this Cisco AnyConnect? Yeah, chat box. Yes, no, maybe. So Cisco AnyConnect is a software which you use to, create a VPN connection from your client machine to your whatever server that you have, or whatever Cisco ASA firewall that you have, right? So what happens is that you're using that Cisco AnyConnect on your Windows machine or Mac or Linux or whatever you have. Same thing goes with the Fortinet or the FortiGate's product as well. They have something which is called as a Forti client. Some of you might know this, some of you might not. Forti client is also in the same category of a Cisco AnyConnect. Okay, it's a software which is installed on the end user. Okay, and this software have again, it also takes updates from your FortiGate servers, so that it will act as an antivirus for you. It will act as a malicious guard for you, and it will act as a security patch management for you as well. That your system would have would have basically the right patch updates, Windows updates, Forti client's own personal updates as well. So this will make sure that your client system, your client device, or your end user machine is secured. If your end user machine is secured, it doesn't really matter if you're in the company or maybe you're outside in the company, or at your home or at your travel. It doesn't really matter, right? Because if your system is clean, right, it doesn't, if you connect to your company's network, it's fine. Yeah. So that's what it basically means when we say zero trust access. Zero trust, when I say zero trust, it means that you're not trusting any machine, any system out there. It's not the user who you're not trusting, it's the machine that comes up with it. So you are making sure that all the machines out there are having the regular updates, regular system updates, AV machine updates, everything which is required to keep that system clean. Once you have the system clean, then you can go ahead and very well quick connect to your company's environment, and you will be able to access whatever resource that you want. You're making sure that your system is clean, your environment is clean, your network is clean, in a way, one thing leading to another, and you're making sure everything is top notch. Okay. Next, secure networking. Secure networking is also a result of what you do with the zero trust, where whatever you're doing with the client, with the Forti client, you're also doing the same thing on the Fortigate firewall. What I mean is that you would have a lot of features and functionalities from the LAN and the 5G and the cloud. So you would be able to keep a secure connection to all those technologies, different infrastructure, and you can make sure that those traffic going through those are basically clean for all the security that you can implement over there. Cloud security. Hold on. Yeah, cloud security. See over here, the cloud security, the network operations, security operations, and open ecosystem. Basically, this all comes under the category of the cyber security, wherein you are able to apply different features of the Fortigate firewall and making sure that your cloud is secure, your network is secure, your infrastructure is secure. This is what this is all talking about. Okay, so this whole section is talking about one thing, which is your cloud, your network, your infrastructure, okay, your client system or end user machine, okay, your end user machines, okay, and of course the firewall itself. So in a way, you are making sure that all of this is covered, and once all of this is covered, in a way your whole environment is covered. When your whole environment is covered, you are stress free, right? So that's what Fortinet is helping you achieve, that with the help of their products, and Fortigate is one of them. Yeah. Now they do have just recently, released their 40 OS 7.2. We are going to work with the 7.0. The reason is that 7.0 is one of the stablest versions out there. So we are going to work with that. 7.2 is quite recent. I think just a couple of weeks back they have released this. Okay. So again, these are articles which you can always go and read through. I am going to show you the products. Hold on. Yeah, so if you come over here into the network security, yeah, so in the network security, you have this section of next generation firewall, right? So let's go over here. Okay, so models and specifications, if you just, expand this, you'll get to know a couple of, the high-end series of your Fortigate firewall. Okay, let's take one of these. Let's quickly, okay, let's take this one. Now let's go ahead and understand what are the products, because once you understand what kind of products and the feature functionality set they have, in a way you will understand the whole range of products that you have. Okay, so what we are doing is we are just taking up one of the device out there, hold on, which is the 2600F. Okay, it's a high-end device. It's a 2000 series device. It's a high-end device, and let's try to figure out what all options we have over here. Okay, now see, over here, you can, if you look from the top, from the bottom left, right, you have a couple of options. You have the status, as in is the device on and off. Okay, you have an alarm. Now, if in case there is a physical faulty device, something goes wrong, you have an alarm. You have an HA. So if in case you have configured an HA, there's a LED status for that. And then you have the power, as in is the power cables working correctly or not. Okay, so this is also right there. Now you have the next, which is the console. Console, we all know. Once you have a brand new device coming up, then you click, you connect to the console, and then you get the access to the device, CLI, and then you make changes to it, right? So you have that. That's the reason you have the console over here. Next is the management ports, right? We have two management ports. See, all the high-end devices that you have, they will have two management ports. They will have two HA ports. Okay, that's how they have designed the devices. If it is an entry-level device, you might get the console management, but then you'll just get one. Okay, you have HA cable. You have an HA port, but you'll have only one HA port. Okay. So if it is an entry level or the mid level, you'll get just one. If it is a high end device, you'll get two. Because when you have a high end device, the responsibility to ensure the device stays in function is more as compared to a lower end device, right? So we have two management boards now. By default, if you want to write this down as a note, you can write this 192.168.1.99 is your default IP address, which is always on your management one. Okay. So if you have two management ports, what will happen is you will have two IP addresses. One is 192.168.1.99, and the other will go as 2.99. All right. And this will go on management two. Okay. So this is the default, and this is a question which is also asked in an interview. So you need to know this. These are default configurations. 192.168.1.99 and 2.99. These are the default IP address. You will always have this in the management, and once you are able to access, then if in case you want to change this, absolutely you can. Apart from this, what we need to understand is that the default values also I have. I mean the username and the password. So the default username is admin, and password is basically blank. Now, when I say blank, not means BLANK. No, what I mean is it's just blank. You don't need to put in anything. You just need to enter admin. And once you do that, you need to enter again and it will ask you to change the password. So this is the first thing that we do. Whenever you log into the Fortigate firewall for the first time, that's the first thing that you do. You log in with the admin and the password is blank. You need to again enter and it'll prompt you to change the password. Once you change the password, and then you would be able to log in and make whatever changes that you want. Okay. Let's move on. So two HA ports, as I discussed, that the HA is HA stands for high availability, right? So high availability in a very basic way, it's basically redundancy. If in case one of the device goes down, you still have another device which would be able to handle the traffic for you. So that's why you have the HA. Okay. Then we have something which is called as the 10G base T, which is ports, which is 10 gig of ports. Okay. And you have how many? You have 16 ports. Okay. So you see this, you have around 8 ports over here and 8 ports over here. So in all to how many? You have 16 ports and each port is of 10 gig. Okay. So this is again a port that you can work with. If it's a high-end device again, so that's the reason of having these many ports. Next is the higher ports or 16 SFP28 ports. Okay, so over here, what will happen is it supports 10 to 25 gigs of speed. Okay, so now I hope you guys know what is SFP. Yeah, do you know what is SFP? Can anybody put it in the chat box? What is SFP? Full form SFP. Small form factor pluggable. So that's the full form of SFP, and these are um, fiber cables. You connect your fiber cables to it, and if in case anybody who is above 10 gig or till 25 gig, you can use it. So again, we are basically talking about ISP level or service based, so service companies, right? So if you are hired by a service company, okay, who are providing services, firewall services to other companies out there, then you are basically you would be using these kind of devices, which is high-end devices. Okay. All right. Then we go a little above, ahead of this. Hold on, let me, yep. Okay, so now see over here, we have 4 ports of 100 gig. Now that's huge, right? It's QSFP, as in it goes above the SFP standards, as in the high-end QSFP. I'm not sure what exactly the Q stands for. I don't remember right now on top of my mind, but this is the QSFP for you. 33, 34, 35, 36. 4 ports, 100 gig each. Okay, so you'll be connecting your SFPs over here. Those are the 40 gig SFPs. Those are very costly, I must say. But then yes, you would be having these, and you can go ahead and use that if in case. Now this is mostly used if in case you are considering yourself as an ISP. If your client is an ISP, you might get this. Okay. Now let's do one thing. Let's get inside the device itself, and let's try to figure out what all we have, right? Because the better we understand the hardware, the better we understand the mechanics of it, it will be easy for us to understand how the device works, right? Because a lot of times issues are not on the software, issues are on the firewall as a hardware, okay? And anybody who is basically preparing himself for an interview, you should know something over here as well. So let me show you what we are talking about over here. Okay, so you can see something which is called as a Fortinet SPU, and then it says NP7. What does it mean? Okay, all right. So I'm just waiting for this for the animation to complete so that I can explain all these options. Okay, all right. So see now over here what we have. What do we have over here? It says Fortinet. I hope this is clear for you. So this is SPU, 40 SPU, and this is NP7. All right. So what does this mean? What the hell is this? So see, a Fortinet SPU is basically it's a chip. It's a hardware chip. Okay, and this hardware chip is on all your FortiGate firewalls out there. The NP basically stands for network processor. Now, what does this network processor is, and what does this 7 stands for? See, the 7 is, so it's, I think it's starts off with 3 and goes to 11, I believe. NP3, NP4, NP5, 6, 7 till 11. What does this mean? See, if you are having an entry level device, okay, you might have a NP processor, which is the lower end as well. If you have a mid end device, you might have something like 5. If you have a high end device, then something over here 7 to 9. And then if again you are at the ISP level, then you may be somewhere in the 10 and 11. Okay, so this number is in a way also trying to tell you that what is the capacity of your device. And when I say network processor, what does that guy mean? So see, whenever we are talking about the network processor, right? So let me move on this first. Okay. So the NP7 or the network processor is something which handles your network traffic. So when I say network traffic, what I'm talking about layer 3. Layer 3, what layer 3? OSI layer 3. Okay. So layer 3 is basically your network level. So anything which works on your network. Now IP, IPsec, ICMP, guys, mute yourself. ICMP, right? So this are basically examples of the protocols which works on layer 3, right? So IP, IPsec, ICMP. So all this traffic will be handled by your NP7. See, what happens is in most of the devices, you have your CPU and then you have your RAM. Okay, so the job of your CPU is to handle the traffic, and the job of your RAM is to process the traffic, right? So in the FortiGate firewall, there you have something apart from your CPU and the RAM, you have something which is called as a network processor. What these guys does is the traffic will be reaching your CPU. Okay, the CPU rather than processing the traffic, it is going to send this traffic to your NP processor. Now the network processor is going to process all the traffic. So in a way, isn't your CPU free? It does not have any job. It's right there. So what happens is your CPU utilization always remain low. That is one. So which is good for your hardware performance. And second is that whatever new connection is coming in, your CPU is always ready for that. Okay. So the first connection or the first traffic which comes to your firewall, it always goes to your CPU. And once it is being received by your CPU, it goes and forwards to the different hardware processor chips that you have. Okay. So in our case, it's the network processor. You have some more hardware chips, which is called as CP, which is content processor. And then you have something which is called as SP, which is a security processor, which we are going to talk about in great detail in the course itself. But just to give you an idea of what exactly this is all about. Okay, now this is talking about the amount of traffic that the Fortigate firewall can handle, as in this hardware model, the 2600F series. Yeah, this is going to handle this much of amount of traffic. It's a hybrid IT at scale. Basically means the features and the functionalities on this device is such that you can have your cloud integration into it without any issues at all. Okay, so you can have a physical setup with the cloud integration, no issues at all. VLAN information, VLAN X information, again, you can have that kind of functionality where if you have a VXLAN in your setup, you can integrate that with the FortiGate firewall. Elephant flow acceleration. See, because of we have this NP and the CP and the SP, which is different hardware chips, dedicated hardware chips to handle different kind of traffic. And that's why we call this as elephant flow acceleration, is because of these hardware chips, these integrated individual dedicated hardware chips, you are able to process the traffic so quick, because it's not just only on your CPU to handle all your traffic. Your NP, CP, and SP, these are simultaneously handling all the traffic, so the processing of it becomes so fast. It doesn't really matter how much traffic that it's being handling. It becomes really easy for it. So hardware performance goes really well, the software performance goes really well, and your device is not under pressure even if the traffic is peaking at 8 levels or whatever the hardware support is. Accelerated session is again a byproduct of having this NP and CP, because these devices are able to help you accelerate the whole process of the traffic which is getting through the firewall itself. IoT, you can IoT again. I mean, it's a feature where you would be able to integrate all the other devices where you can configure an IP address and you can connect those with the FortiGate firewall and apply scanning, inspections, and the policies into it as you can. As you want. Okay. So see, it's basically telling you about the NP7, as in the details about the NP7, as in how much of the throughput, as in firewall throughput, it can handle. It can handle about 198, which is more or less close to 200 Gbps of the traffic throughput. Then you have the threat protection. If you have your UTM enabled, your scanning enabled, then what the amount of traffic which it can go through, how much is the IPsec VPN, the SSL concurrent sessions, and the sessions per second. So it's like 1 million, which is that's really fantastic. Okay, so this is what your the inside structure of a device looks like. Now again, the structure depends again on what kind of device that you're working on, but the network processor's functionality remains the same. Okay, so which we are going to anyway cover up in the class. So yeah, so I think this is pretty much enough. Okay, so this is the hardware specs. Okay, so this was a quick introduction of what exactly a 2600F, as in the Fortinet device, is all about. Let me show you something. This is the highest level of Fortinet product that you can get. Okay, FortiGate 7000 series or 712F is one of the highest FortiGate device that you can have, and it's a chassis. It's not even a device. You cannot call this as a device. It's a chassis. So now if you scroll down a little bit, you will basically get the products on this with a drop down list. You'll have chassis, ultra high end, mid range, entry level, virtual machines, and then data center firewalls. Now, again, according to the demand or according to the use case, this is categorized as in the high end or the mid range or the chassis and that stuff. See, as of now, it is selected as chassis. So you are basically looking at the highest Fortigate models out there. Okay, it starts off with the Fortigate 5001E series, which can handle up to 13 gigs of thread protection scanning, SSL of 15 gigs. This is the amount of which is 40,000 connections per second. The number of interfaces it has. So basically, over here, this is talking about all the products that you have in the chassis category. If I do this, go into the high end, then you are having the 6,000 series. Do you see this? You have the 6,000 and the 4,000. If you go into the high end, then you have the 3,900 series, 3,600 series, 3,400 series. So again, it's in 3,000 series. If you go into the mid range, you go into the 900, 600. Again, see the scanning. You see this over here, thread protections. That's what I mean when I say hardware performance. This is what I mean. It's just like you have a Windows system, right? If you have an i3, it has a certain performance. If you have an i5, it has a certain performance. If you have an i7 or an i9, it has a certain performance. Exactly the same way you have the FortiGate devices over here as well. Okay. So according to the range or according to what category you're looking for, you can basically select over here. So in the virtual machines, which we are going to work with, this is what you have. Okay. So again, I would definitely ask you guys to go ahead and come over here, have a look into the firewalls, different categories. Reason is that once you understand the models, how exactly the model is looking and what all features and functionalities that particular device. Just one. I mean, I'm not saying to go through all the devices. Maybe one. Just pick up any one of the products and look for what all options does it have. Okay, and is those options making sense to you? And if in case there's something which you're not really aware of or something is maybe missing out, you're not able to completely understand what exactly that means, you can always come back to me with saying that, hey, you know what, I was accessing this and this is the data sheet and I'm not really sure of, what this basically means. So for example, let's say I take this up. So it is automatically going to give you the data sheet of that particular product and the features, functionalities, and all the different options that you have. Okay. So what I want is that you should be going through this. Okay. Go through the data sheet. See, you can see the SPUs over here. So go through this, understand what exactly this means, and is it making sense to you or not? Okay. So go through it, you'll be able to have a much better understanding. It will give you the confidence whenever you are on a interview or if you are trying to, look for that L2 or L3 and L4 role, it will really help you. Okay. Now let's come back. So we just saw what kind of different products that we have, right? Now you guys might have a good understanding of what is a Fortinet as a company, what is a FortiGate firewall, and what are the different features and the functionalities that you have, as in the NVs and the security processors, right? Because those are, again, although we are going to cover those up in the class as well, but from the overview perspective of what differentiates the Fortinet FortiGate firewall from the other firewalls out there, and what is the similarities and all that stuff. So it will be easy for you to understand that. Okay. Now, this is what exactly we were talking about right now. The ASIC chips, the FortiGuard update, the customer, the scalable, the value, the cost of management. So basically, was all as in, whatever we discussed about. So this was all about that. Okay. Now, let me go ahead and quickly show you something over here. Hold on. See, once you get yourself enrolled, then you will be able to, log into the devices, right? So this is how the console or in the CLI would look like in for your FortiGate firewall, right? So once you come over here, you'll be logging in. And once you do that, okay, you will have access to your Fortigate firewall. Now, what will happen is if I want to show you how exactly the GUI looks like, there is a command. We are going to discuss all these things anyway, so don't. Yeah, so there's one which is called a get system interface. If you want to write this down, it's a command which we use to figure out what all interfaces do we have and what IP address is configured on different interfaces. Okay, one of the commands. I'm not saying this one. There's one which is called as show system interface as well. We're going to tell you the differences between these two and how can you use the different commands and what place you would be using the different commands. Okay. All right, so we have 192.168.0.5. Okay, so do I have it somewhere saved? Yes. So this is how the login page or the web GUI looks like for your Fortigate firewall. So you will be using your credentials to log in. Okay, so once you come over here, you will have the first thing that you will notice is the dashboard. Okay, the dashboard as an overall, the top level overview of the Fortigate firewall, what options you will get, what all features that you have, and what all options you can work with in the Fortigate firewall itself. So if you look closely, the first thing is called as the system information. Now, what does this mean? System information means about the system information about what exactly the device has configured, how much RAM, how much CPU, sorry, how much what firmware that you have, what is the amount of information which is available, what is the firmware version, what is the time. So you can see that information. I can see it's a firmware which is 7.0. The time frame is this. Mode is NAT. Now we are going to talk about this in the class. What is NAT mode and what is the one thing which is called as TP, transparent mode. So we're going to talk about these two, what are the difference between them and all that stuff. The uptime, it's been around 1 hour. When IP is unknown, which is fine. But in your hardware devices, the one which you will be working with, you'll have an IP over here. Next is the license. Before I go over there, let me show you there something. So this is since it's a lab environment, so we have given about 1 CPU core and about 1 GB of RAM, but the maximum that you can go with is 2 GB of RAM. Okay, since you will already have your lab, you can just go ahead and log in with your lab. So this is one thing which you really do not have to be worried about. But then anybody who is basically trying to configure their own lab, yes, then this is one thing that you should be looking for. Okay, but yes, my point over here is that you will get the same information if in case your company or your client has a Fortigate firewall, you can see those information over here as well. Next is the licensing. The licensing over here basically means that what kind of Fortigate support do you have? Do you have 8x5 support, which is 8 o'clock to 5 p.m., or do you have 24/7 support, which is all across the globe? Okay. So if in case, what kind of support do you have? The firmware and the general updates, the IPS, UTM, web filtering. This is a hold on. This is a part of something which is called as UTM. Okay, so the unified threat management, we are going to discuss this also, but so this is a part of your UTM and you will get all these updates. You remember we talked about something which was called as the Fortigate. Yeah, so your licensing updates will be taken care by the Fortigate. You should have access to your Fortigate servers and they will take care of your servers, licensing, the patch management, the IPS updates, AV, web filtering, everything. Okay. Next is the administrator section, which will tell you that who has logged in and what is the name of it guy. Okay. And it's not just one, maybe let's say you have more people coming in, so you will be able to see that information as well. Security fabric is a topic which we are going to cover up in coming classes. CPU is something which you will be able to come and check over here. Okay. Over here, you need to figure out, or you need to so see this 1 minute is something that you need to select. You can select whatever you want. Let me show you what all option you have. If you select this, okay, you will be able to find out that do you want to give this for the 10 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, 12 hours, or whatever it is. So if I do this 12 hours, I do not have that of information, but then all your guys, all your Fortigate hardware devices, you can select this to have a better view of what exactly the device has been. Okay, it basically comes into the picture when, if in case your CPU utilization or memory utilization is going above 80 or 90%, and you want to figure out what exactly the issue is all about. If that's the case, then that is where you work with the CPU. And again, it's all covered. I'm going to tell all about how to use and when to use and all that stuff. Okay, next. Same goes with the memory, as in how much memory is being used. So for me, as of now, it's 62%. Again, it's a VM environment, and I'm giving just 1 GB of RAM, which is just enough for me to power on this device and make it work with the lab setup environment. With the lab environment, which is fine. But then, since you'll be having your hardware devices, you'll have the RAM. You will have that over there. So for the 30 minutes, I'm just putting it over here. You can again select the number of sessions for how many amount of time you want to filter out that. Now over here, you have the security tab. You have different options of, if you have a FortiClient, and if FortiClient has detected any kind of vulnerabilities, some host scanning, so you have all those options over here. In the network part, you'll have basically the all kind of routes. If you have route enabled, the DHCP, SD-WAN, IPsec, it's one of the best places to look for your routing. It's so good. Once you configure everything, maybe after 70% or 80% of the class, this page will look brilliant. I mean, I feel like it's very good. So for you as well, I'm just giving my personal opinion. So anyway, so this is the user page where you would be able to, figure out what all options you get, what all options you have as a firewall user. If anybody is coming from the FortiClient, if anybody is coming, if anybody is being quarantined, so what is that and what does it mean? That's all covered. So you have the 40 view sources. Now 40 view source means that it's going to list out all the top sources for you. Now what are top sources I'm talking about? The top source on the basis of session and bandwidth, or the bytes. Okay, meaning whoever has consumed the top. So let's say if somebody has consumed about 10 GB. Okay, so that's a top source, right? If somebody has consumed about 20 GB, so it will list out all the users and the amount of bandwidth they have consumed. Okay, now that's upon you. When I say what that's upon you over here, this is what I mean. How would you like to filter, as in real-time filter, or when, so right now, if somebody is consuming a lot of bandwidth right now, live, you can do this. If in case, let's say you want to know that you want to figure out, so you have to basically integrate this with a device, which is called as a analyzer, and then you'll have an option of 10 minutes, 30 minutes, just like you see that in the status, right? 10, 30, 1 hour, 12 hours, 24 hours, just like that, you will have it over here as well. Okay. The same goes with the destination as well, that you will have a list of all the IP addresses and the destinations who is being used the maximum. Okay, so the maximum number of destination in your environment, you would be able to use that. You would be able to figure out, okay, so these are the top 5 destinations which all of my users are trying to access. Same goes with the applications, the websites. This is very important, by the way. The 40B websites. It is going to tell you the top 10, top 20 websites which is being used in your environment. And if you do it for the last 1 month or so, you will be able to figure out are the people in the organization are mostly on your social media, or are they really protective? So you'll get a good hang of it. Now, what differentiates a firewall administrator from a firewall expert is just this: using the dashboard to better understand how the firewall is working, how the network is behaving, and what can you do best to make it better. That's what differentiates a normal administrator from an expert. Okay, now over here, you guys are becoming an expert. So this is your playground, and I want you guys to go through it in the training. Go through it, try to understand more and more about it. And if in case you feel like there's any questions or queries, feel free to shoot me up. Not literally shooting me up, I'm just trying to say questions. Okay, all right. Firewall policies, FortiView sessions also in the same category. Okay, then it's your configuration. Now, once the dashboard is done, you are coming into the network section where you would be able to figure out all the interfaces that you have, how much of them are configured, and if in case you want to configure any one of them, how would you do it? Okay. Over here, you have a couple of options. If in case you want to create a new VLAN interface, how would you do that? If you want to create a lag interface, how would you do that? Softwares, SSL, VPN, those are different functionalities. So how would you do that? That's all under the interface section. Okay. DNS. The DNS is basically, this is the place where by default, your Fortigate firewall already have one. Okay, so it will use that if in case you haven't specified. So if you want to specify, you can just go ahead and say use 1.1 or whatever it is. I mean, you can also have your own private DNS server. You can, I mean, a lot of companies do have certain implementation where they have their own private DNS server, right? And that is how it is supposed to be. So you should always have your own DNS server and you should put it over here. Okay. Now you have the protocol section, which is about what kind of a protocol that you want to work with. So DNS UDP 53, which is the default one. You can also enable the TLS one, where you would be using the 853 protocol, or you can use the HTTPS as well. Again, upon depending on the situation and scenario, you can make use of that. So I'm not making any changes right now. Packet capture is again one of the troubleshooting feature which you can use whenever you are trying to troubleshoot a situation or a scenario. Over there, you can use the packet capture to figure out what is best for the environment. Okay. SD-WAN, yes, this is covered. So SD-WAN, you will be able to understand how to configure the SD-WAN and what are the features and the functionalities of it, and what are the possible use cases, where would you use it, why would you use it, and if in case something breaks, how would you troubleshoot? That's the whole point. Okay, so static routes, again, I mean, as of now, you already have a default one, but then why would you need the static route? On what use cases, or where would you need a static route? That's what will be covered. Okay, the next is the policy and objects. Very important. This is like your heart and soul of the firewall. Okay, and not just the FortiGate firewall, basically talking about any firewall for that matter. Any firewall out there, firewall policy is the heart and soul of it. Reason is that whatever configuration that you can think of, whatever traffic that you want to allow, or whatever traffic that you want to deny, or whatever traffic that you want to scan, it has to be in the firewall policy, right? So whatever policy that you configure, that will determine how your network will behave, right? So firewall policy is, that's why we say that it's your heart and soul of your device. So just to give you a little glimpse of what exactly you will be dealing with. So see, there are two policies over here. One is for PC2 and one is for the Windows PC, right? So what will happen is this is just a way of telling you that there is a policy which is having the incoming interface of port 3 and port 1. Now, why do I use this interfaces? Again, when we are into the lab, it will make much more sense, right? So source is PC2. So if you look closely, if I just hover over your source, which is PC2, it's going to give you a small pop-up and it's going to tell you what is the details of that section. Okay, so it's isn't it easy? Isn't this like, you know, you do not have to even click on it, it'll just show you that. Okay, it will just show you how exactly, or what is the address object. So this is called as an address object, where you'll know that whatever the address object is, what is it about. So we know that, okay, the type of this address object is subnet, the name given is PC2, the subnet is having the IP address of 172.16.32.5 and /32. So it's just one single IP, right? Interface is any, and interface any over here basically means I can use this address object with any interface. Port 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 does not really matter. I can use this address object anywhere. If while configuring the address object, I would have selected, let's say port 2. Okay, so if that would have been the case, would have not used this over here. I would have not been able to use it on this firewall policy because it has port 3 and port 1, right? So if I'm mapping this 32.5 IP address with the interface of port 2, I would not be able to use it anywhere. Now, anyways, we'll be digging in deep into it, but that's a little glimpse too. Destination all basically means I'm trying to access everything. And if you, again, I hover over it, so it basically tells you that the subnet is 0.0.0.0/0, in a way of saying you can access anything. Okay, next is the schedule, which is mostly talking about when this traffic or when this firewall policy will be active. Now you can see in the days section, it says Sunday to Saturday. So basically all 7 days, and the time is 00, starting and ending. This in a way is telling you 24/7, this policy is active. Okay. Now there are a couple of multiple scenarios and situations where you can use the schedule, which we are going to talk about. Next is the service, wherein you can just click on over here. Now see, these are pre-configured services which you have on your Fortigate firewall. This is not which I have configured it. These are pre-configured. Okay, so you can see this all ICMP, ICMP6, TCP, UDP, HTTP, HTTP. So basically these are all pre-configured. If you want to make use of any of one of them, you can absolutely go with that. So all the registered ports, right? CCNA topic, registered ports, all those are already over here. Okay, so you do not have to configure them. If it is any custom ports that you're working with, then you might need to configure them. And it's very easy actually. You just need to click over here, create, and create the service. That's the page you get. Configure it, click on OK, and that's done. Again, we're going to go through it, so do not worry. Then the next is the NAT option, which I find it very easy to implement over here. We just enable the NAT and then put in whatever the IP that you want. So either you can use the outgoing interface, which is very much common, or you can have an IP pool right here. This is basically a pool. What IP pool mean is that you would have information about, let's say for example, you have a private IP on your WAN interface. Then you cannot use the outgoing interface, right? What will happen is ISP, a lot of time ISP provides you with the public IP addresses, right? So what you do is you create an IP pool, you put the IP address over there, and whenever the traffic is going out, it's going to make sure that it is using that particular IP address. Okay, so it doesn't matter if your IP is configured on the port itself, it does not matter, you would still be able to use that. Okay, so again, it's quite handy, quite easy to implement. Then you have the security profile. So according to whatever the role of the policy is, according to whatever the policy is configured for, what is the target, according to that, you can enable the different and the various kinds of security profiles that you have. Okay, again, this is all covered, don't worry. And then the next section is the logging options, where it talks more about what kind of log do you want to enable. So if you say security events, what does this mean is, if you have these enabled, the security profiles, if you have this enabled, then it will only go ahead and create a log for you. If you have all of them disabled, then in that case, if you have security events checked, it will not generate any logs. Why? Because you've already disabled all the security events. So if you're disabling all the security events, what will you generate? Make sense? Yeah. And if in case you want to go for all sessions, yes. Now what will happen is, it doesn't really matter if you have the security events or not. Even if you have just the first 6 criteria of the interfaces and the address subjects and the source and the destination, if you have that, it will go ahead and create the address. It will create the login for you. Okay, so this is how you will go ahead and configure the firewall policy. It's like a small mini session on your firewall policies, right? So now let me see. So let me show you over here. It also talks about, the amount of information that the FortiGate has handled right now. So since I just powered on this guy, so that's why it doesn't give you much information about the last used and the first used, because it just got powered on a couple of, an hour ago. But if we were using this firewall policy, it will tell you the first time it was used, the last time it was used, the number of active sessions, the number of bytes, and everything. See this, it's all zero. So if you want to look into, so let's say, for example, I want to go over here, and if I right click, you see this option? It basically tells or talks about, the matching logs, or if you want to look into the matching logs. So if you click on this, okay, it will directly come and it will show you under the log and report forward traffic if there is any logs. Now again, as I said, since I just found this guy on an hour back, that's why you have this. Apart from that, you would basically, it will list out all your logs, traffic coming from what source, what destination, where it is going, was it allowed, was it denied, okay, all that stuff. Then you have local traffic. This is again for traffic which is generated from your Fortigate firewall itself. Okay. Then you have the events, antiviruses, web filter, SSL. That's again when we go through the different security profiles. These logs will also come in handy. The application control, the IPS, and all that stuff. Okay. So right, so I'm just trying to, yeah. So I think that's pretty much it with the firewall policy, because rest is anyway is going to be covered in the lab itself. Apart from this, you'll have access to your CLI app over here. Okay, now over here you will have whatever we are going to do in the firewall over here. Okay, okay, and everything would be configured over here as well. So you will have access to the web GUI. How would you configure that? And over here you'll have the CLI. So both ways. Okay, now let's do one thing. Let's take a pause over here, and let's open up the session as an open session. Let's talk, and let's figure out what all kind of questions you guys might have. Okay, so let's make it a little interactive. Let's make this a little, because I don't want to talk all about the firewall, and I want you guys to I want you guys to come up and ask as many questions you have. Anything that you want to talk about, any questions that you might want to, have discussion on. Go ahead. Okay, so are you guys able to unmute yourself, all of you? Yes, no, maybe. Okay, great. All right. So yeah, go ahead and ask if you have any questions. Come
on. Hello, this is Gopal here. I
yes,
have a question regarding on this. So if we want to set any netting policies or those which we can do in the CLI as well as in the GUI, right? For this?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So for example, can we configure anything and check on that?
What happens is, see, when we enable the NAT over here, right? So, I mean, again, it's an option. You can either enable or disable according to whether you want the NAT on it or not. If you want, then you have the two options of either the outgoing, which is for me port 1. That's one, which is the default. Otherwise, you have an IP pool that you can configure. So let's say your company gave you a public IP. Okay. So let's say you were given, I don't know, 164. I'm just taking a random IP, 16400.
Yeah, any random.
That one. Yeah. So let's just take this one, Control C. You put a dash and then you paste. Okay. So invalid. Why? Oh, sorry. 10.1. Yeah. Done. Click on OK. So you have this public IP. Now, what will happen is once I select this, now when the traffic is going to leave, it's going to use this public IP as compared to the port that I have, which is 192.168. So that's how the NAT will work. Okay. Now, again, this is just one of the ways to create the NAT. If you create over here, you get a lot of options. You see this overload, one-to-one, fixed port, port block. That's what we're going to discuss anyway in the class. But yeah, you do have these 4 to 5 options inside the NAT and how you can make it work. One more thing, apart from this, you have also which is called as central NAT. Central NAT is something which is you take this option of NAT, you remove it from the firewall policy, and then you have a tab over here. Do you see this firewall policy tab? Inside this, we'll have another tab of central NAT, and you can configure a NAT policy. Just like you're creating a firewall policy, you will be able to create a NAT policy. Does it make sense to you? Are you able to follow this up?
Yeah. But I haven't used the central one.
Fine. We are going to do that in the lab in the class, so you will be doing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what about the Fortigate is used in the SD-WAN as well? So is that the SD-WAN environment will be a different one, right?
See, in a very simplistic way, SD-WAN is nothing but load balancing. Okay, you're just load balancing the traffic on multiple ISPs. So SD-WAN is just that. I'm not just talking about the FortiGate. I'm just talking about any SD-WAN out there. All the features and functionalities is fine, but the crux of the matter is that they are just trying to load balance the traffic into different ISPs. Now, what you do is that when you are over here, hold on. So let me show you. So once you will be creating an SD-WAN, you'll come over here, and then you'll be adding interfaces. We are also going to do the same. We are going to use two interface, and that will be used to load balance the traffic. So even if, let's say, for example, I'm going to show you this in the lab where you are going to ping from traffic, or you're going to access some website, and I'm going to drop, or I'm going to disable one of the interfaces. But then for you, there will be no issues at all. You will still be able to access that website, because the traffic will be offloaded to a different interface, and then that will be taken up. Okay, so that's what the SD-WAN is all about. And then you have so many features inside the SD-WAN as to, if you want to load balance, what would be the criteria of it, and what's the use case of it, and all that stuff. That's what the SD-WAN is all about.
So basically, in the SD-WAN environment, they will use, because of the large number of devices, just to load balance the things in their environment.
Yes.
Okay.
And not just the device, it's the interface. What I mean is, let's say, for example, over here I have 4 interface, right? So I'll add a couple of more interface. I'll make it like 6 interface, and then let's say I'll use 1 and 2 for ISP. So let's say one would be Airtel, and the other one is Geo. And if in case something goes wrong with the Airtel, I still have a Geo interface through which I'll be able to make sure that all my users still have internet connectivity. So that's what the SD-WAN is all about: load balancing the traffic between interfaces. You can have more than 2 as well, but yes, the moral of the story is you will be able to handle the traffic even if one of the interface goes down. You must have understood the concept of GLBP, HSRP in the CCNA. You remember that? It's load balancing.
Yeah. So it's like a backup part, like when it works
Exactly.
like one, like if
If
you
one
are
goes
working
down,
with
you have the other
more
one.
than, yeah. So if you have 3, which will be equal to 2, so 2 will be equal to 1. So that are the things we are looking on that. Yeah.
So in a way, we are basically talking about redundancy, right? That's what it is
correct.
over
It's
here.
redundancy.
That's what it is over here. So you say GLBP, you say HSRP, you say high availability, or HA, or you say SD-WAN. They are all working in the same principle of redundancy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello.
All right. Yes, Ibrahim, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Just I wanted to know the integration of this Fortigate with Cisco products. Currently, we are using the Cisco products in our data centers. So if we want to integrate this device with our existing environments, can we say it's easily integrated with this existing environment?
See this again. The job of have going through the firewall mastery or the firewall mastery is that you would be able to handle or integrate all the devices, because Cisco is also one thing you are learning over here, right? So you would be able to handle that, and you will be able to handle the let me show you. Hold on. So see, this is the lab topology that you'll get, okay, which is basically an integration of all the firewalls plus the Cisco devices as well, because you will not be able to integrate them without having a Cisco device over here, right? So in a way, you're learning the firewalls, but in a way, you're also learning how to integrate that with multiple or multi-vendor technology. Okay, so you would, in a way, it's like a default action or default output you will get, that you will be able to know the integration between two different vendors, two different devices. Doesn't matter if it is Cisco or if it is anything else. How would you integrate the two firewalls to make it work, or how would you integrate a router to make it to work with the firewall? That's there. Does that answer your question, Ibrahim?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Arjun, I think you have raised your hand. Go ahead and unmute
Another
yourself.
question.
Okay.
Hi. Hello.
Arjun, give me a minute. I think
Yeah,
Ibrahim has a second question.
Yeah,
Yes,
this is
Ibrahim,
Arjun.
go ahead. Yes, Ibrahim,
Okay.
go ahead.
You raised the load balancing about this device, but the function of load balancing is mostly done by F5 device, that is big
Yes.
IP.
Yes.
So can we say it's replaced the big IP device for load balancing?
See, what happens is F5 is like a dedicated device for load balancing, right? And so see, what happens is whenever you're working with a firewall, right? Every firewall out there gives you functionality of application control. It gives you the functionality of IPS, right? And you have a dedicated IPS as well. So does it mean to say that a dedicated IPS is not required if you have a firewall which has the IPS engine into it? So over here, there is no simple yes or no answer. The reason is that whenever you are working with a load balancer, all right, such as a big IP, yeah, it gives you so many features and functionalities which you may not get on a firewall, which you may not get. Let's say, for example, the features and functionality which is available on a big IP. It is not necessary that you will find the same features and functionality on your Palo Alto or maybe on the Fortigate firewall, right? So a dedicated device which only functions on a specific technology has its own benefits. Okay, so it's always required for you to understand the device which is a dedicated device. In our case, it's the F5, and a device which is like a combination of couple of features, which is the firewalls, where you can use IPS and application control and the web filtering and all that stuff. Okay. So again, there is no simple yes or no answer over here. The integration basically is what determines whether you want an F5 load balancer or you do not want an F5 load balancer. So if your company's organization is or your organization or the client that you are handling, his network setup is such a way that you can just have a firewall and make it work for all the devices, then you do not need a load balancer. But then let's say the client is a huge environment and it's spread across multiple countries out there, then I would probably say yes, you need a load balancer out there. So again, it depends on the topology, the client, the how the network is designed, and then you can make up a decision whether you need it or not. So this is the reason why we have 5-in-1 over here, where it doesn't really matter what kind of network design, topology, the client or small or big, it doesn't really matter because you'll have knowledge on all these things. So you will be able to make a better decision of how to go, what to do, and how to configure things. And for the client as well, he'll have much more trust on you because you know such technologies, not just one device. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Go ahead, Arjun.
Hi. How are you?
Good.
Yeah. have one quick question regarding that SNMP V3. If you're configuring for some kind of like a NMS tool, SolarWinds, I'm not getting actually for the complete MIB for the Fortigate. So we need to add any additional MIB for Fortigate, or
No,
by default
what
it
you
will be
can do
coming.
is you can do is in the Fortigate firewall itself, you have the option to let me show you. I think.
Okay.
So you need to just download this one, the Fortigate MIB file over here, okay, and upload that on your SolarWinds. Okay. Once you do this, you have SNMP v3.
Yeah, SNMP v3 configured.
Okay, do this. Come over here in the host section, put in the IP address of your SolarWinds, right? And then you need to keep this as default. That's it. This is all default, no problem at all. That's it.
So what Fortigate is recommended, like use this by default protocol, or the port number, or we can change it to any other?
See, there's no such recommendations on that. But then what is said is that if you are using the default one, it's best. But then if you want to change it up, you can. So there is no such recommendation as to this is the only one that
as a best practice. There is not really.
Yeah, but the only thing which I would probably say is that you should always go with the SNMP v3, or if not, then probably v2. Do not use SNMP v1 because it is not secured enough now.
Yeah. Because it's using clear text.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. Okay, fine. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Arjun. Yeah. Okay. Do we have anybody else? Any questions?
Sir, last question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Would you share as a training, the certification pass for this device?
So if I understand this correctly, so you're saying that the syllabus, will it cover the course that could help you get the certification as well? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
see, in a way, yes. But then I'll also provide you certain documentations which would help you with your certification and exam. Okay, because see what happened is it's like this. If whatever is required for you to understand when it comes to the Fortigate firewall, it's anyway going to be on the lab. But then since you are preparing for the certification, there are certain things which cannot be done in the evaluation license. For example, virtual domain or virtual firewall. Okay, that's one part of the that is one part which cannot be done on the lab because it requires licensing, and we are using the evaluation license. So that although we are going to provide you the theoretical part of it, but that is one thing which we cannot cover in the lab because of license issues. All right. But again, having said that, we are going to provide you the documentations that would help you, prepare yourself for the certification exam, and we will be able to help you out with that. So you keep in touch with me. I'll help you with the certification. No worries.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Anybody, basically, it's not just for Abraham. I mean, anybody who's basically trying to, prepare themselves for the certification, you let me know, because that requires a different level of training, which we are going to provide you anyway. But I'll just keep an eye on those people who are going to prepare for the certification. All right. So I'm going to ask you a couple of things to do apart from what you do over here in the lab. So that's what it is. So anybody who's preparing for it, and once you enroll yourself, you do let me know. Okay. Any further questions? Anybody else who would like to ask any questions? You can very well go ahead. Unmute yourself. Okay.
Yeah, just one question.
Yeah, go.
So, if we are taking this Fine One Mastery course, so what will be the expense onto that?
Well, you can get in touch with the team over here, and they will basically share with you the amount of whatever it is required from your side. So
Okay, so we have to buy all the 5, or is it
no, it's not like that.
can be
You can choose
1 or 2 if we need?
absolutely, you can choose that. If in case, so see what happens is if you go for the Firewall Mastery 5-in-1, right? What happens is it would take about 4 to 5 months for you to go through all the courses, right? One by one. You can also do parallelly where you can have, maybe specific course and then you can enroll yourself into it as well. If you do the 5-in-1, it will be better option. But then if in case you want to go for a specific course, you can go for that as well. If you look into your chat box, you'll get the email and the contact information, right? So about the fees and what would be the dates, we are going to start this by, um, ignoring the next week. We are going to start off with the next week of that. So if in case you would like to enroll yourself with a specific course or maybe for all the Firewall Mastery, you have that in the chat box, and you can go ahead and contact them. They will let you know what course is starting off, what time, and what can you enroll. Okay, is that okay?
Just to add another question on that.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, just to add another question on that.
Go ahead.
So if we go with the 5-in-1, so the things which you will teach for a month base for that particular things, and so the labs and all things which will be provided, right? For that.
Yeah, we do have our own lab setup, so you will have access to that lab, and you can practice anywhere whenever you want. Plus, apart from this, in case you would like to set up your own lab in your own system, we do have a support system for that as well. So we will be able to help you with that as well. So if in case you want to have your own setup, it's absolutely fine. We'll help you with that as well. Okay. All right. So,
excuse me.
Yes, Dennis.
Yeah, what is the minimum requirement if you want to set up your own lab at home on an EXI server? What CPU, core CPU, and memories? What's the requirement you need?
Well, you would basically need, I mean, if it is just one specific vendor firewall, then probably I would say you would need about 16, I mean, bare minimum 16 GB of RAM and about 6 cores, 6 CPU cores.
So you could actually install it on a laptop, right? If you have 16 GB, right?
Yeah. So what we are doing is, I mean, we are providing you with our own lab setup. So you'll just log into that particular. We'll provide you with the URL. You'll go and log into that, and you have access to the whole full 5-in-1 mastery lab, which I just show you. Hold on. Yeah. So that's the one. Okay, so you'll have access to this lab where all the firewalls are there. It is fully integrated with all the other devices. You can make it work. You can work on individual firewalls, and you can work with all the other devices as well. That's one. The second is that if in case you want to deploy in your own environment and you need help with that, we can help you with that as well. So both ways you will have access to the lab. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, but do you say all 5 labs are integrated?
Yes.
With just 16 GB of RAM, or you need extra RAM to do that?
It's no, you do not need to provide any extra RAM. It's all part of the course. No extra, money or extra rent for using the lab.
No, I mean, when you integrate the different 5 labs into your own lab physically, do you need as much RAM or you need more RAM to do that?
For that, I'm not really sure of that. But then what you can do is you have the information, the contact information in the chat box. So probably the backend team, they will help you out with this information, whether they have something like that or not. But as for my understanding, we do not. But if in case they do, they'll help you with that.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Okay, so anybody else, any questions before we conclude the session for today? We are going to have this for tomorrow as well. And tomorrow will most probably be either a practical or maybe something like a packet flow session, something like that. So if you have any questions, go ahead, feel free to ask.
So would this be a weekend class, right? Weekend
It
class?
will be a weekend class, yeah.
Okay.
All right, so let me check. I think any further questions? If not, do let me know. Then again, we would be meeting up tomorrow, which is 9 p.m. IST. And if in case you have any questions, feel free to contact us on the WhatsApp or on the email address. And we will be continuing this today. And sorry, we're going to continue this tomorrow as well. So any questions, feel free to shoot, and we're going to answer that. And probably in a week or so, we're going to start off the classes. So I'll see you there. And also, good night. Bye-bye. And I'll see you tomorrow as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.